Georgia woman's lawsuit over a botched FBI raid, Trina Martin says agents raided the wrong Atlanta home in 2017. Lower courts tossed her case, but the justices unanimously ruled it deserves a second look. And it's Friday the 13th, and that's enough to spook millions of Americans. Some won't work, dine out, or even get married today. Experts say the fear comes from the unlucky combo of Friday and the number 13, both long tied to bad luck in folklore. Get BIN News now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Is your concrete cracking? Is your uneven walkway dangerous? Do you need to level that concrete porch or patio? Contact Groundworks, the concrete lifting experts. Riverside, get your free inspection today. Learn more at groundworks.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The NBA Finals resumes tonight with Game 4 in Indianapolis. The Indiana Pacers are up 2-1 over the Oklahoma City Thunder. Before the finals, OKC was a heavy favorite to win the NBA championship. A lot of chatter is circulating around the country now favoring Indiana. Folks believe if Indiana wins tonight, they will take a huge step toward winning their first NBA title in franchise history. Not many people believe OKC can beat the Pacers 3 straight times if they lose tonight. 5:30 tip-off on ABC. The Dodgers and Angels are back in action tonight. The Dodgers start a 10-game homestand tonight. First game is against San Francisco. The Angels begin a 7-game road trip tonight at Baltimore. Angels manager Ron Washington, one of only 2 black managers in Major League Baseball, in their last 10 games. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
LA's newest soul food restaurant is getting spectacular reviews. Great place with amazing food. The Sunday champagne brunch is fabulous. I saw the place on IG. We tried it for lunch. We were blown away by the food and the service. The restaurant has an inviting atmosphere and a dynamic vibe. Over the years, Lionel has catered most major black events in Los Angeles, including all of our KBLA Talk 1580 gatherings. But now he has his own spot, Lionel's Soul Food Cuisine, and you need to check it out at 8501 South Vermont Avenue in Los Angeles. Oxtails, baked or fried chicken, meatloaf, turkey chops, pork chops, catfish, short ribs, and all the fixins. Collard greens, mac and cheese, yams, red beans, black-eyed peas, and more. And of course, hot water cornbread, satisfying drinks, and delicious desserts. Lionel's is a great place for brunch, lunch, or dinner. If it's good enough for us, it's good enough for you, because we've got your black. So, head on over to Lionel's Soul Food Cuisine at 8501 South Vermont Avenue in Los Angeles and tell Lionel you heard about it on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. Dollar, a trillion, a couple trillion should do it. It's time for Freedmen Friday. This is meant to be a comprehensive reparations conversation. We do it every Friday at this time. We are keeping this conversation going, keeping the embers lit, no matter what political party runs the White House, no matter what the calendar says. We will be back up in here talking about reparations. And I'm pleased to welcome in today a director of history and research and the co-founder of United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen. It's a lineage-based organization. He's also a co-founding member of Be the Power, Inc., which is a political education and advocacy group. He went to Bergen Community College, majored in communications, a poli-sci student, an anthropology student during his college years, actually a music producer, studio engineer. He's worked with people like Patti LaBelle, Nile Rodgers of Chic, Teddy Riley, Tyrese, Escape, Craig David, to name a few, but he is not here to talk about that. Even though it's Black Music Month, we are focused on reparations. Brother Ali Bey, welcome.
Thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
Yeah, it sounds like we could do several shows based on your bio, but talk to me about the United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen. What is the organization? What do y'all do?
Okay, well, the United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen is basically a lineage-based organization that is the brainchild of the brothers of Be the Power, the co-founders of Be the Power, which is myself, my brother Naheem, my brother Glim, Josh, and our brother Logic. And basically what we were having was a series of conversations about the Reconstruction period over a number of years. It's just like the brotherhood. We just build on a regular basis daily. And so during our research of the Reconstruction period, which we were very much focused on, we came to a place where we realized that this particular terminology, freedom, was something that we should reinvigorate, begin to reuse in today's time. And so a lot of what you see when you see a lot of the freedom usage is because of the brothers Be the Power now.
Okay, excuse me, Brother Ali Bey. We're having a little technical difficulty with your phone, the sound, and try to fix that really quickly because I want to make sure everyone can hear what you're saying regarding United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen. It sounds like really reactivating the term and examining that period around the Reconstruction, the rather brief Reconstruction period in our country, and what that means in terms of the puzzle that is our reparations. I think we got it fixed. Ali Bey, forgive the interruption. Hopefully the mic is yours again.
Yes. So my apologies for the sound, but basically, the United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen is the brainchild of the brothers from Be the Power. That's what I was explaining. And it came about through a series of conversations we were having based on our research of the Reconstruction period. And, coming into the reparations space and with an understanding that we need to figure out a way to approach reparations that's not race-based. And so we came to the conclusion that, hey, by using this Freedmen category, we can then approach reparations without the invocation of race. And so the United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen is an organization that was basically designed to keep the Freedmen history alive, the Reconstruction period history alive, and to push to people through advocacy the importance of that particular time period as it relates to the issue of reparations.
And this idea, of reparations without race is largely based on the legal challenges to race, in your opinion, or is it based on some other philosophical underpinning in the case of your organization?
Well, no, it's really based on the legal challenges to race, right? And one of the most recent examples we saw of it was in the case of Fair Admissions versus Harvard and UNC, where this same issue came up, right? Race-based legislation, race-based policy being considered unconstitutional, approaching legislation and policy from the perspective of race is something that's going to be challenged for 14th Amendment violation, equal protection clause challenges, right? And it's going to bring about the doctrine of strict scrutiny. Yeah. Usually, when that happens, it doesn't pass. It doesn't pass the muster, right? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Just for people that haven't been tracking, the doctrine of strict scrutiny is a legal concept, which means you have a higher bar to pass in order to be able to move forward, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. And they're like three tiers. It's like a basic, and then like an intermediary, and then strict scrutiny is like the highest form of scrutinization, and usually it doesn't pass when it comes to that, especially issues of race-based, racial consciousness, etc.
Yeah. So that's where this comes from, this reparations without race. But it feels like just from, it's been like a year and a half, we've been doing this every Friday. It feels like out of that also came this incredible, powerful rooting and grounding in our very specific heritage as descendants of enslaved persons or freedmen in this country.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that the circumstances kind of provided for it. And we see now, you on Twitter, you see it a lot. On Twitter or X, whatever they call it, you see it a lot that, people are trying to delineate. That's one of the things that we did as an organization with the Office of Management and Budget, which we were really the people educated folks on the purpose of the Office of Management and Budget and how they function to inform the Census Bureau, state and local agencies as it pertains to racial categorization and the identity of certain people. Like, if you go back and research it, you'll see that our organization, through Be the Power, this is stuff we were talking about for years. And so our listeners, a lot of them being in the reparations space, kind of adopted the information and started moving on it.
Yeah. Well, when you say moving on it, what do you mean by that?
Well, like our organization, myself, I presented to the Office of Management and Budget a proposal for a specific category just for our people that would delineate us from other people of the Black race, so that information can be gathered with regard to our people's positionality in the country. And so we presented, people from ADOS then presented, you had other folks who presented after we did. But the fact that they even did it comes from, our education and advocacy through Be the Power.
And when we talk about revitalizing this term Freedmen and our understanding of what the unfinished business is from Reconstruction, why is that so important?
Well, one of the things that I really began to realize through the works of people like Dr. William Darity is that this wealth gap is a real thing, and it's something that needs to be addressed, right? It's not something that I really paid attention to until I started listening to Darity's work and other people who were talking about the wealth gap and how significant it was. Because, the average person is not really thinking about that until it's brought to their attention. And so once I realized that that's an issue for our families in this country, and that is something that needed to be addressed, and that it is something that is actually rooted in the failed efforts of Reconstruction, it's like, hey, we need to try to get this government to stand on principle and to do what was promised for our families from that time period, because that is what leads, that and the other things that come during the Jim Crow period, those things all together lead to this wealth gap, you see. And so that's why the Reconstruction period was really, really important to us in terms of our research.
It's a Freedmen Friday. We're talking with Brother Ali Bey of the United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen. You're welcome to get in the convo, 800-920-1580. We will keep it going when we come forward, only right here.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Worried about eviction? You have rights, and Stay Housed LA can help. Stay Housed LA is a partnership between LA County, the City of Los Angeles, and local service providers. From Lancaster to Long Beach, we're here to help you with tenant education workshops, legal clinics, free legal services for eligible tenants, and online resources about tenant protection laws. Don't face eviction alone. Call our hotline at 1-888-694-0040. That's 1-888-694-0040. Or visit stayhousedla.org. Stay Housed LA, keeping Los Angeles residents in their homes. Stay Housed LA, your rights, your home, our community. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Thanks for starting your morning off with a voice that speaks truth to power and the powerless, getting to the heart of what matters most in our community. This is where authentic conversation meets real action. From breaking news and politics to culture and community solutions, this is where you hear perspectives you won't hear anywhere else. This is where we come together, get informed, and make change happen. You're inside First Things First with Dominique DiPrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
Oh, these polymers aren't as flexible as batch K3.
Researcher Laurie is stretched thin.
Did you get the vulcanization analytics from V66? Oh, wait, are these rubber scores from last week?
She needs to hire new lab technicians so she can bounce back into her old self.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Our matching platform lets you spend less time searching and more time connecting with candidates. Redeem your $75 credit at Indeed.com/credit. Terms and conditions apply.
The conversation continues right now with Dominique DiPrima on First Things First.
And we're talking with Ali Bey, Director of History and Research, co-founder of United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen. He's a researcher and intellectual who co-authored Allegiance, Birthright and Race in America with Duke University professor Dr. William Sandy Darity for the African American Intellectual History Society. You referenced Dr. Darity and his work around the wealth gap. And this is one of the places where there's a lot of pushback, right? We look at opinion polling of white Americans or other people who aren't black, and the conversation is, I didn't own any slaves, you were never enslaved, white people are poor too, it's not fair. So kind of break that down in terms of putting it in historical perspective with the wealth gap.
Right, absolutely. So the wealth gap, again, when you go back into that particular period of Reconstruction, the Civil War, et cetera, it's a very important period with regard to how this wealth gap comes about. There were land grants. This is something that we used to talk about with Dr. Darity. The land grants, the 40-acre plots of land grants that were supposed to go to those specific freedmen families in that area of the South, they didn't get it. And the ones who got it, a lot of that stuff was returned back to the former slave owners. The land represents the wealth that could have been accumulated and built upon by those families over the years. We're not able to get it. The same thing with the Freedmen's, the 1866 Freedmen's Bill. There were land plots that were supposed to be granted to people. I mean, there was a small payment that they were supposed to make, but those land plots are things that people could have built upon to build wealth. They couldn't. Then you have the situation where people were able to purchase land. Millions of acres of land that were lost that they purchased through people either stealing it, heirs property issues, etc. People lost millions of acres of land. That's a lot of money and wealth. And so all of these things over the years leads to what we see as the wealth gap. And land being one of the major ways that people are able to generate wealth, land ownership, land acquisition. Those things being stripped from our families. Also, at the same time, you're stripping the wealth or the ability to accumulate wealth from those families. So it's really not about white people, whether or not they own slaves or did not own slaves. What it is about is the fact that this country, the government, promised certain things and failed to fulfill those promises. Has nothing to do with white people individually.
Yeah. And we've spent a lot of time talking about this. Why is the business of Reconstruction unfinished?
Well, that it was overthrown. You know, it was overthrown because still there was turmoil in the country. As you know, after the Civil War, there was still turmoil. You had the Southerners who were coming back into power. Unfortunately, a lot of them were granted, they were granted amnesty. And a lot of those people that were granted amnesty came back into power in the states as state reps, governors, etc. And so there was an election where the Democrats and the Republicans had to determine who was going to take office. And upon that determination, they started to abandon the people of the South during the end of the Reconstruction period. The federal government abandoned the people of the South. And so our folks were left to fend for themselves. Frederick Douglass said, our people were emancipated into poverty. You know, and this is the truth. Emancipated into poverty, and the protection of the government went away at the end of Reconstruction. So we were left to fend for ourselves, and you had all of these racial terrorist organizations, etc. You know, things like what happened in Wilmington, North Carolina, begin to occur even more. And so we lost a lot when the government abandoned us in order to compromise on that election.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, and that's one of the reasons why when, you look at the UN definition of reparations, the protection or guarantee of non-repetition should be so important to Black people in this country, or melanated people, or Freedmen, or ADOS, or FBA, or whatever y'all want to call yourselves, because that was the trickery of the Civil War, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
And actually, not just those folks slid into government. A lot of those folks got their land back, and many of them got reparations. Confederates, did they not?
Well, specifically in the District of Columbia. So in 1862,
yes,
right? Yeah, isn't that something? There was something called the Compensated Emancipation Act, and what they did in the District of Columbia was they actually compensated the former slave owners for the loss of their quote-unquote Negro property. And so, yeah, they did. But what happened is it didn't continue because the 14th Amendment made it unconstitutional. A lot of people don't know that. 14th Amendment made it so that the United States government did not incur any debts on behalf of rebels who rebelled against the United States. They didn't incur any more debts. So if you look at the 14th Amendment, I think it's like Section 3 or 4 or something like that, you'll see that in there that the United States was not going to incur any debts on behalf of any rebels who raised up against the country.
I did not know that. That's very interesting. We have Carl Tucker in our YouTube chat asking you whether you've looked into Callie House. I can't quite understand how he's written the question, but he says, has your guest looked into Callie House, 1861 to 1928? We've talked about her on the show before, but he's, I guess, asking you for your thoughts on her.
Well, yeah, Callie House is one of the early reparationists. She's one of the early reparationists, and unfortunately, she was done dirty by this government. They charged her with federal crime. I think it's something like mail fraud or something like that.
Yeah, mail fraud.
Trying to get people to join the organization, and the dues that they were paying, they tried to say she was doing some kind of fraud through the U.S. mails as well.
But she was traveling the country trying to recruit people into her organization and looking at reparations as some kind of pension for formerly enslaved people, or some kind of
absolutely
similar to what we're talking about now in California with the universal basic income for elders, some kind of pension. And she ended up doing time. Daniel Samir Siren in the chat asks, are their previous promises enough? And I had this conversation with rap artist Jay French. We were arguing about reparations, and I said it's a debt. I was, referring to the work of Randall Robinson, the debt, but also the idea of what was promised during the Reconstruction that was not delivered. And he's, he seemed to think, well, that was a long time ago, that is null and void. And I feel like Daniel Samir is kind of referring to that in a sense by saying, are those previous promises enough? Do they mean anything today?
Absolutely, they mean something. You got to think, people often refer to the 40-acre land plots that were promised during the war. But after that, like I said, the 1866 Freedmen's Bill also suggested land plots, not just for that strip of land that General Sherman was talking about, but within the various Confederate states. They were supposed to issue land to people who were heads of the families of the African race all throughout those Confederate states. You pull up the 1866 Freedmen's Bureau bill and you'll see it. And so it's larger than just that Sea Island area that was being talked about by General Sherman. And if we were able to acquire that land and hold on to that land throughout the Confederate states, we'd be in a different place. We wouldn't have to be talking about reparations now.
Yeah.
But our problem is we always have to start over. Every generation has to start over from scratch. And for whatever the reason, people like the brother you just mentioned seem to feel that that's okay, and it's not.
Starting over from scratch. Yeah, of course, I looked it up. But I'm thinking what you just said, we wouldn't be asking for reparations now. Can you imagine what a different United States it would be right now had freedmen been granted land in all of those Confederate states today?
Exactly. Come on. You see what it is. It's not that hard, right? But, you talk about land ownership, home ownership. This is one of the best ways to acquire wealth in the country. This is like one of the primary ways to do it. And so for anybody to think that stuff meant nothing or means nothing, you're talking about generational wealth that has just been wiped out or taken away, your opportunity to even to utilize that for upward mobility. It's just been stripped from you.
Yeah.
It means everything.
And it's worth noting that was vetoed by President Andrew Johnson, who pretty much reneged on any repair for formerly enslaved persons in this country.
Absolutely.
It's not
he reneged on a lot of stuff. The congressional override, unfortunately, they were able to get things passed. But at the end of the day, the Freedmen's Bureau was defunded. The Freedmen's Bank was looted. Right? See, all of these things that occurred during that time period that people ignore or that they don't teach in school because it's so important, and they don't want you to bring that up. They don't want you using that as a basis for any argument. Like, you talk about you have the right to petition your government for redress of grievances. That's all we're doing is demonstrating our constitutional right to petition the government for redress of these grievances. You left us hanging. You left our families hanging.
Yeah, and we're still hanging. 800-920-1580. But I think, you're right. We've had to start over. But I feel like we're moving. It's on the move. That's one of the reasons we do this. Look forward to continuing the conversation with Ali Bey of the United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen after news, traffic, and sports. It's a Freedmen Friday on KBLA Talk 1580.
Say the quiet part out loud. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says strikes on Iran will continue until the threat is gone.
For decades, the tyrants of Tehran have brazenly, openly called for Israel's destruction.
Iran confirms top Revolutionary Guard commander Hossein Salami was killed in the attack along with other officials. Israel is bracing for retaliation and has declared a state of emergency. A Black California teen track star was disqualified after celebrating her state title with a fire extinguisher, an homage to Olympian Maurice Green. Clara Adams's win was revoked for unsportsmanlike conduct, and now her family is considering legal action. And Black Florida A&M Athletic Director Angela Suggs has been arrested for fraud and theft tied to her previous role at the Florida Sports Foundation, accused of misusing over $24,000. Suggs is now on administrative leave. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Is your concrete cracking? Is your uneven walkway dangerous? Do you need to level that concrete porch or patio? Contact Groundworks, the concrete lifting experts. Riverside, get your free inspection today. Learn more at groundworks.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The NBA Finals resumes tonight with Game 4 in Indianapolis. The Indiana Pacers are up 2-1 over the Oklahoma City Thunder. Before the finals, OKC was a heavy favorite to win the NBA championship. A lot of chatter is circulating around the country now favoring Indiana. Folks believe if Indiana wins tonight, they will take a huge step toward winning their first NBA title in franchise history. Not many people believe OKC can beat the Pacers 3 straight times if they lose tonight. 5:30 tip-off on ABC. The Dodgers and Angels are back in action tonight. The Dodgers start a 10-game homestand tonight. First game is against San Francisco. The Angels begin a 7-game road trip tonight at Baltimore. Angels manager Ron Washington, one of only 2 black managers in Major League Baseball, has seen his team play pretty well lately. The Angels are 7-3 in their last 10 games. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Every mother deserves a healthy and joyous pregnancy and birth, and every baby deserves to thrive. That's why the Los Angeles County Abundant Birth Project is here. The Abundant Birth Project is a guaranteed income program that provides cash during pregnancy to pregnant individuals at the highest risk of preterm and low birth rate babies. Although program enrollment has closed, our commitment to Black joy and thriving continues. Through tailored services that foster mental well-being and community-based resources, we provide care and support during pregnancy and after the baby is born to help build brighter futures for our families. Join us in celebrating abundant births in LA County. For more information, please visit abundantbirthproject.org. abundantbirthproject.org.
1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. You ready?
Somebody make some noise in this joint.
KBLA Talk 1580 celebrates its 4th anniversary this year on Juneteenth.
Here we go again.
Hard to believe 4 years has gone by so fast.
Oh my God.
But here we are, still standing, still loving and serving our people as best we can.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
To celebrate our 4th anniversary, we have 4 big events, and you're invited to all of them.
She got a lot to say. Let's do this.
Let's get it on.
On Wednesday, June 18th, we go live on C-SPAN for the 2nd consecutive year with our Climate Justice Plus Black Health Symposium. Tavis Smiley will moderate an all-star panel of thinkers and influencers as we continue our vitally important climate justice work.
Hey, Tavis Smiley, talk about.
On Thursday, June 19th, you're invited to join us as we celebrate Juneteenth and our 4th anniversary. There will be plenty of food, fun, great music, good vibes, and all of your favorite KBLA Talk 1580 hosts will be there.
Yeah, man.
Put the beat. On Saturday, June 21st, there are 2 big events you're invited to attend.
I can't wait to hear it.
This year, KBLA Talk 1580 continues its annual partnership with the Empowerment Congress for a community celebration and dialogue to educate, engage, and empower. This year's theme is resilience in the face of chaos.
Can't wait to see what's up next.
Y'all ain't ready for this.
And new this year is our State of Black Women in Los Angeles Symposium, moderated by Dominique DiPrima, with a luncheon to follow. Dominique will be leading a dialogue with some of the most impactful Black women leaders in Los Angeles, and you're invited to join.
This is it.
All of these events are free, but seating is limited, so you must register in advance at our KBLA1580.com website, where you can find all the details you need about each event.
Check it out.
It's our 4th anniversary, and we would love to celebrate it with you.
I love you guys so much. There's nothing you can do about it.
We're KBLA Talk 1580.
The only black talk radio station west of the Mississippi.
Thank you for having our black.
Happy anniversary, KBLA.
Love you.
We're not for everybody, but we're for everybody. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
And my guest on this Freedmen Friday is Ali Bey. United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen is his organization. And we've been talking about, your work, but also this period of Reconstruction as being so key, as we've heard folks in the 2020s arguing about how we should be referred to each other and whether we should have a lineage-based claim or a more broad-based Pan-African or race-based claim or harm-based. And you chuckle, so I'm going to just hand you the mic and let you say what you want to say about that.
Well, our position is that we would prefer to go around the wall as opposed to try to run through the brick wall. So we identify race-based approaches as trying to run through a brick wall. We know it's there. The Pan-African groups know that brick wall is there. That's their approach. I can't tell them what to do. They can do what they're going to do. We've debated about it on a number of occasions with them. They're fixed in their views and their opinions about it. I get it. It's what they've been doing for a number of years, etc. The approach that we're trying to take is a very unorthodox thing. It's not something that anybody's really ever done before. Just doing it based on not necessarily lineage, but our status as being members of this class of Americans that we identified as the American freedmen families in the United States. And for us, that's a very unorthodox approach. I mean, for everybody, it's unorthodox because no one's ever approached anything in that way before. But we see it as necessary, and we feel like that based on everything that we've come to realize, from the affirmative action case to what's going on in Illinois with the case against the reparations happening out there.
Evanston, yeah.
Evanston, yeah. So it's like because it's a race-based approach. That's why they're being challenged. And so even with the Fearless Fund, we try communicating with the sister that owns the Fearless Fund to try to get her to see, hey, maybe you should approach it in a different kind of way. But I don't think people are able to see a way to broach the issue of remedial justice without invoking race. Well, that's our job. So we're trying to show people that there's another way. And we believe that the affirmative action case, even the commentary, the concurrent opinion of Clarence Thomas, a lot of people look at him as a coon and whatever it is they say, but we believe that in his opinion, he affirmed what it is that we've been saying. That, this freedmen category, this is this category of people, this category of Americans, this class of Americans, this is who this stuff was really for. All that affirmative action stuff is really for them. And they're the ones who actually benefit the least from it. So we need to try to get back to the legislative intent of all of this stuff to ensure that those families actually receive the remedial justice that was due to them, that was promised to them, but was reneged upon by this government. And so we feel that approaching it from a race-neutral perspective, which we view the Freedmen approach as a race-neutral approach, is the best way. We believe it's the superior position out of all of the other ones.
When you talk about race neutral, is there a danger that that the class could be flagged as a proxy for race? Because I mean, in reality, the enslaved people were all black in this country.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But again, I'm going to go back to Thomas. It was incidental. The race part was incidental.
Mm-hmm.
It's as hard as it may seem to accept.
Mm-hmm.
It really was. It had more to do with the fact that these people had the power to do what they did, and so they did it. They didn't do it just to us. At a certain point, they were enslaving Indians, right? And you get a lot of people talking about that nowadays, that certain Indians were enslaved. So it wasn't just about blackness per se. It was the fact that these were people who were oppressive, and they were using their powers to oppress other people that they could oppress. If they could do it to Asians, they would do it. If they could exclude Asians from society, they'll do it. So that it's about power. The race part is incidental.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
To identify oppressive, classes that they want to oppress.
I mean, and also the fact that they used our race, and I'm putting air quotes around that, to make it seem that we were less than human in order to justify that enslavement. But your point is taken. Do you had written an executive order yourself for the Biden administration to do around reparations? I was saying this on the radio over and over again. Why doesn't he do it? He's old as dirt. He's not going to run for another term after this. Why doesn't he just lame duck his way into an executive order around reparations? What were you thinking when you wrote that? And why is that still important?
Well, it's still important because it could cut through a lot of red tape. So when they came with H.R. 40, they were trying to get a commission created through Congress.
Right.
Which,
we're still trying.
Would be a good way to do it.
Right. I mean,
absolutely.
Booker and Presley just reintroduced it again. So, yeah, we're still trying, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There's nothing wrong with that. However, it takes a lot of votes, and it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of quid pro quo, all of these things. Whereas the president has the authority to actually create a commission to do the same kind of work without having to go through Congress. You had the Kerner Commission. You had a bunch of commissions, a bunch of presidential commissions. So we don't necessarily need to go through Congress just to create a commission that's going to do what? Study, make reports, and make recommendations.
Right, what California's already done.
Right. So the president can do this.
Mm-hmm.
You can look at it, and there's many executive orders where the president created presidential-level commissions that do the same kind of work that a commission would do if it was established through Congress. It's just a quicker route to get to the same point.
So would it also be a study at that point, or would it be and I'm asking that against the context of Maryland Governor Moore vetoing a bill for that state on the basis that the time for studies is over and we need action. And a lot of reparationists are making that argument today.
Absolutely. And we didn't represent the bill to the Trump administration. We thought about doing it, not the bill, the executive order. We thought about representing it to the Trump administration. But you're absolutely right. The time for just doing studies is past. However, that's why what we did with our work in the state of Massachusetts, we drafted two bills. One was to create a commission that would create reparations proposals and make recommendations to the state legislature in Massachusetts. But then the most important bill that, to me, the bill that's even more important is the bill that we submitted and had introduced, which would create a state agency of Freedmen Affairs. And this is important because this thing can actually do the work that you're looking for a commission to suggest to the legislature. Then they would have to create some kind of framework around doing this particular work that the agency can actually start doing immediately. So our bill in Massachusetts, HD 3879, an act to establish a Massachusetts Agency of Freedmen Affairs, was given an emergency preamble. And this is what it says. Whereas the deferred operation of this act would tend to defeat its purpose, which is forthwith which is to forthwith establish a Massachusetts Office of Freedmen Affairs. Therefore, it is hereby declared to be an emergency law necessary for the immediate preservation of the public convenience. So they added that. The representatives added that. And we've been in meetings with other representatives of the state to get other co-sponsors for this particular bill. We had it introduced by our sister Brandy Fluker-Reed, who was a state representative, along with another representative by the name of Samantha Montano of the 15th district there in that state. And so we've been working to try to establish on a state level, starting with Massachusetts, an agency of Freedmen Affairs that will actually start to be able to deliver certain tangibles that are necessary and moving forward in the remedial justice work.
And of course, I'm sure, given that, you must be tracking California, where we had a legislative black caucus refused to introduce a couple of bills, one which would have established a Freedmen Affairs agency. Now we have this back under consideration, and some reparationists are not supporting it because it is, number one, a bureau rather than an agency, and number two, because it's not called Freedmen Affairs Bureau, it would be called a Bureau of Descendants of Enslaved Persons.
Slavery.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So basically, what they did was they hijacked our bill, not our brothers in CJAC or NAASD, because those are our family members. We work in conjunction with them on that stuff, as well as the state level bill, which what is it? It's the state bill out there in Cali with the state workers, where you have the freedmen language in that particular bill. We worked in conjunction with them to get that in there.
Right, that's data tracking, yeah.
Absolutely. So what happened is the California Legislative Black Caucus basically hijacked the bill and tried to change the language. They tried to change the language because I believe that, in my personal opinion, I believe they're working with members of the ADOS group.
Yeah.
And so
I think that's right.
This competition, this unnecessary competition between ADOS and people who are freedmen conscious, or people who use freedmanism as their advocacy.
They're talking about SB 518, which is up under consideration now, which would establish the Bureau of Descendants of American Slavery. Let's say ADOS did work on it, which I believe they did. I mean, Yvette Carnell did a whole YouTube rant about it, which to me would indicate that they did. Are you saying that you also would not support it just because of that? I mean, I don't know. I feel like having a bureau or an agency, having that standing entity is a concrete outcome for our advocacy of reparations, and I'm inclined to support it for that reason, even if it's not exactly perfect, i.e., not exactly what was on the table last August.
Right. Well, here's the thing, right? Because we were faced with the same kind of dilemma in Massachusetts, right? Because if you look, there's actually two competing bills, right? The first bill that I mentioned, not the Freedmen Affairs bill, but there's another bill that we had introduced at the same time, which is a bill that would create a commission on reparations to develop proposals and make recommendations to the state legislature for American freedmen families. This is the language we're using. Because they wanted to introduce the Pan-African groups who ADOS is now working with. A lot of people don't know that. They are working with various Pan-African groups. And this came up in the state of Massachusetts in some back meetings that were being had. They wanted us to get on board with them so that we would introduce one bill together. And we're all working together to introduce one bill. So we were brought into these meetings, United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen, along with NARC and COBRA, the Urban League, I think the NAACP, was a bunch of organizations involved in these meetings, and some local organizations up there. what wound up coming out of it is we were able to convince them that the use of race language, which a lot of them were very intent on using, we got to use African American, we got to use black. We had a bunch of discussions where this was broken down and explained, and we got them like 95% of the way towards the Freedmen. The language of their bill had changed drastically, except they wanted to leave one thing in there about African Americans. The problem is African American in the United States, even though we look at it as an ethnic term, is viewed by the United States as a racial term that's synonymous with black. And so we're trying to explain to them, listen, let's remove all racial language out of it. Let's just go with Freedmen. Everybody knows that the race of the Freedmen was black or Negro, right? You know this. So we don't have to go into that. Let's just deal with it from the perspective of where the Supreme Court has already laid out an affirmative action case. This is a race-neutral category. This is what came out. It's a race-neutral category because not all black people are freedmen. So it's a way to deal with this particular class of Americans without invoking race. They didn't want to do it. This last remnant of race they didn't want to take out. So we say, hey, look, if you can't do it, we're going to go ahead and present our bill. We already have a couple of representatives that's willing to work with us, that's going to stand by. So we wound up with two competing bills, and they went back to their race-based bill. And so for me, it's really an issue of language. A lot of people think that language doesn't mean anything. But one of the things I always say to people is this. When you interact with police, this is a great example. It's a small level example, but it's a great example of what we're talking about. When you interact with police, they tell you something very specific, something very important. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. So they're telling you the stuff that you're saying has real legal ramifications. There's significance to what you're saying. Somebody said there's no such thing as magic words. That's not true. Words hold power.
Not guilty being two magic words. Yeah.
Come on. You see what I'm saying? So the right to remain silent, there's a significance to that because you can say stuff that can mess you up. And the same thing with these bills. And we're trying to explain that to people. The stuff that you all are saying and putting in these bills are going to cause what happened in Evanston to cause. The same thing is going to happen in Massachusetts. The same thing is going to happen in California. Why aren't we taking heed to these things that are right in front of our face and learning the lessons from them that are happening in real time?
Talking with Ali Bey, United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen is his organization. He's a co-founder of that. And we will continue this conversation when we come forward. It's a Freedmen Friday on KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
Hi, I'm LA City Councilman Curran Price, inviting you to join us on Saturday, June the 14th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. as we cut the ribbon on the brand new Enel Woods Park at 8703 South McKinley Avenue. Thanks to a generous donation from Heal the Bay, the park features smart irrigation, stormwater capture systems, and space for local wildlife to thrive. And we've built a walking trail, picnic areas, native landscaping, and quiet spaces for families to gather, relax, and connect. This is part of a much larger effort to expand green spaces across South LA with 3 new parks in the works, a first-of-its-kind community center coming soon, and plans to connect it all through the South LA Greenway. So mark your calendar for Saturday, June 14th, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., and come celebrate a greener, stronger South LA at Enel Woods Park. I'm also pleased to sponsor the Climate Justice plus Black Health Symposium, moderated by Tavis Smiley, live on C-SPAN, Wednesday, June the 18th, from 4 to 7 p.m. at the Nate Holden Performing Arts Center. Just a reminder to sign up right away at the KBLA1580.com website to join me, Mayor Karen Bass, Congresswoman Sidney Kamlager Dove, Tennessee State Representative Justin Pearson, Dr. Cornel West, former Congressman Jesse Jackson Jr., the Sierra Club's Ben Jealous, and other black influencers in the climate and health fields as we continue to amplify the connection between climate and poor health outcomes for our people. Thank you for listening. I'm Councilman Curran Price.
Catch Prep is now enrolling for summer credit recovery in fall 2025. As South Los Angeles' top-performing high school in English, math, and college access, Catch Prep is welcoming all 9th through 12th graders to enroll now. Catch Prep offers a small, supportive, and safe learning environment to help all students succeed, so that all students feel valued, respected, and motivated to reach their full potential. For the past 20 years, Catch Prep has helped more students of color gain admission to top-tier universities, with our graduating seniors earning a total of $3 million in scholarships, more than any other school in Los Angeles. We are dedicated to helping all students turn your college dreams into reality. Catch Prep is now enrolling. Visit us online at catchhighschool.com or call 323-293-3917. Spaces limited. Please enroll now for summer credit recovery and fall 2025. Call 323-293-3917 or enroll today at catchhighschool.com.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where everybody is somebody and nobody is a stranger. You belong here.
You belong here. We're glad you are here. 800-920-1580. That's the number here. We're going to be unpacking all of the things we've been talking about this hour and whatever's going on in the news and inside your brain. Next hour, phone lines are wide open. And Morris Phillips says the brother sounds like he's putting in some work on behalf of God's people. I'm impressed. One of the things about the Freedmen Friday segment, Ali Bey, is that it has given me so much information, hope, and understanding of this momentum, coming from different people's philosophies and viewpoints. It seems like we are just continuing to make progress, and it's pretty stunning to me how much has happened in the past 5 years.
Absolutely. Well, a lot has happened, and I think one of the main things I would like to leave the family with is this: to think about this, right? When we're talking about the Reconstruction period and the importance of it, look at what's happening right now with the whole issue of birthright citizenship. If you look at the speech of Thaddeus Stevens when they were introducing the 14th Amendment, he tells you the reason why they even introduced the 14th Amendment. Specifically, he mentions the freedmen. This is not me making this up. This is in the congressional records. He felt that, yes, the 1866 Civil Rights Act protects these freedmen, but it's just an act of Congress that can be overturned by another Congress. So we need to enshrine in the Constitution those principles that are inside of that 1866 Civil Rights Act into the 14th Amendment. And he said, and I'm afraid that if we don't do this, those states and those former Confederates are going to crush to death the freedmen, the hated freedmen, he called them. And so we are under the impression of this, that the 13th Amendment, also from that time period, Congress has the power through its 13th Amendment Section 2 authority to eradicate all of the badges and incidents of slavery, and the racial wealth gap being one of those things. Has nothing to do with white people and how they feel. The United States has debt. White people don't complain about any portion of the any other portion of the debt except when it comes to us. But that is still a debt that this government owes to our families. And again, through the 13th Amendment, Section 2, it has the power to eradicate that wealth gap that we identify as one of the badges and or incidents of slavery.
Tell folks how to track the work that you're doing or participate or just learn more.
Okay, so the work that we've been doing in Massachusetts, which is very, very important, you can track the actual bill. Massachusetts Legislative website, malegislature.gov/bills, and you can go into the search engine and search for Bill HD 3879. You will see the representatives that are the sponsors for the bill, Fluka Reed, as well as Montano. And then the other bill is the bill to create the Commission on Reparations for the American Freedmen in Massachusetts. That's H1696. Both of them can be found through the 194th General Court, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, on their website.
And
also, you can go to, go to the United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen .org, and our website has a whole slew of information about all of the things that we're working on and have been involved with.
Ali Bey, thank you so much for the conversation. I truly enjoyed it.
Thank you. I appreciate being here.
News, traffic, and sports. Then let's unpack it. KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says strikes on Iran will continue until the threat is gone.
For decades, the tyrant